Welcome back. We will commence our discussion of sin with the root sin, pride. Pride is esteeming the personality self above other men and women and above God. This sin is the root of all sin, as for any other sin to occur, it is required that the personality construct, the small self, sit upon the throne. The thought seeds which precipitate prideful emotions and actions are along these lines. Now, when I say these things, I'm not making these claims. I'm reading the words that I've written to demonstrate these things, and this goes with all of these sins. So, the thought seeds of pride. I, the personality structure, the ego structure, am God. I, the personality ego structure, am superior to other men and women. I, the personality structure, am allowed special license to behave immorally without consequence. Or in other words, I am exempt from cosmic law. I have some kind of specialness, which puts me in a separate category from all of the other beings. And you can see how those thought seeds are fraudulent, how they are lies. It's evident. The emotion seeds that go alongside those thought seeds are superiority, condemnation of others, or even possibly self, narcissism. The actions which sprout from prideful thoughts and emotions are slander or condemnation of others, self-aggrandization, and even violence. The remedy for pride is humility. So you'll notice that as we go through these, the remedy to the 7 deadly sins is the 7 lively virtues. So the remedy for pride is humility, which is confidence that has been honed into humble certainty. Being as you are, an expression of God in form, bearing all of the gifts you have been blessed with, powerful and capable in full recognition that you have no more value than anyone else. That everyone is a child of God. Everyone is God in form. And everyone has infinite value. And again, this map will be available for you to access at your leisure. The second sin is greed, which is to regard the physical aspect of creation as the pinnacle of creation, also called idolatry. Idolatry specifically in worship of the material plane. The thought seeds of greed are, I want more material possessions. I am discontent without material wealth. I require more things to be satisfied. Or perhaps, if I had greater material wealth or greater material possessions, then I would then have greater value. And again, you can see how these thought seeds are lies. It's evident in them. The emotion seeds that run alongside these, concurrent with those thought seeds, are discontent with material circumstances, scarcity or lack, and fear. The actions which sprout from greed could be condensed into what we could call hoarding. And you can see how fear, scarcity, and lack would manifest physically as a tendency to hoard material wealth or material possessions. The remedy for greed is generosity, or largesse, gracious giving of time, attention, and energy with discernment, prudence, and wisdom. Intuitive, altruistic, and pragmatic application of focus on providing service, resources, attention, time, where there is true need. And that's not something that is determined by an intellectual process. That's something that is known in the present moment by the true self when it claims its purview. And this is one of the many reasons why the attunements that I have taught you are of supreme value. Because standing in truth as who you are, what you are, and how you serve will facilitate the uninhibited expression of the divine as you. That is to say, by standing in the truth of who you are, there's no need for intellectual processes to think of ways to express as the divine. By standing in the truth of who you are, you will express as you are in truth, because you know who you are in truth. The third sin is wrath. Wrath could be described as the desire for harm, vengeful or malicious intent. The thought seeds associated with wrath are, I want them to be harmed. They deserve to be harmed. I am justified in wishing that they be harmed. And perhaps added to this, you could say, I'm justified in wishing that they be harmed because of something that they have done. Again, what you're doing when you claim these agreements, these fraudulent agreements, these lies, is separation. You're claiming that you are separate from these other beings. That because their behavior does not fit in to your prescription of moral conduct, that they are not divine, that they are outside of God. It behooves us to recognize that all is of God, and while it is valuable to exercise prudence and wisdom in our dealings with other people, how we choose to associate or not associate with people, how we choose to address our relationships with other people, it is imperative that we recognize that they are still of God. The emotion seeds, which run concurrent with the thought seeds of wrath, are fear, anger, and vengefulness. And the actions which sprout from wrath are violence. The remedy for wrath is forgiveness, recognition that all is of God, that there is no man or woman who is exempt from this, There is no man or woman who is outside of God. Prudence and discernment in practical matters. For example, it's not wise or prudent to abide violence. But forgiveness in one's heart, recognizing that to condemn another is to condemn oneself. When you place anything or anyone outside of God, you place yourself outside of God. What you claim in darkness claims you in darkness. Recognizing that it is imperative for us to exercise prudence and wisdom in the way that we deal with other people, I recall a saying by Maharaji, Neem Karoli Baba. Throw them out of your life, but don't throw them out of your heart. Do what you must in your dealings with people, but do not cultivate hate for them. Bless them as you send them away. The fourth sin is envy. We could call it jealousy, but underneath the surface, envy is resentment for the good fortune of others. The thought seeds associated with envy are, they do not deserve that fortune or blessing. I deserve what they have more than they do. It is wrong for them to have what they have. Clearly, someone made a mistake in blessing them with that thing. The emotion seeds which run concurrent to the thought seeds of envy are jealousy, discontent, fear, scarcity, and lack. The action which sprouts from envy is coveting. The remedy for envy is kindness, wishing the best for all others. The fifth sin is lust. Mental or emotional sexual objectification. The thought seeds associated with lustful thinking, feeling, and behavior are, I want to use them for sexual gratification. They, others, are a way that I can gratify my sexual desires and fantasizing. The emotion seeds, which run concurrent with thought seeds of lust, are separateness, inadequacy, fear, scarcity, and lack. The actions which sprout from lust are objectification. And of course, we all know that there are other actions which can be cultivated if lust is not addressed earlier. The remedy for lust is chastity, which is to raise the low primordial power, low frequency, root, core, primordial power of sexual energy into higher frequencies in a practical sense. And what I have found is that means taking the energy from sexual desire and transmuting that energy, lifting it up into the heart and above in order to empower oneself to be of service. The sixth sin is gluttony. Overindulgence in sensory pleasure. The thought seeds associated with gluttony are, I want sensory pleasure. Hedonism is a worthwhile pursuit. Sensory pleasure is superior to spiritual pleasures. The emotion seeds which run concurrent to the thought seeds of gluttony are thirst or hunger, what one could also call dissatisfaction, fear, scarcity, and lack. The actions which sprout from gluttony are animalistic or beastly sensory gratification. The remedy for gluttony is temperance, being honest about what you truly need and diligently moderating how you attend to that which you want but don't need. For example, with food, organizing your diet and exercising dietary disciplines so as to nourish you and not exclusively to indulge your desire for sensory gratification. The remedy for gluttony is eating to live, not living to eat. 7-Day Vegan Challenge. The seventh sin is sloth. Denying the responsibility that you have as a child of God to stand in and express as truth. Shirking your duties. Putting off work that you know you must do. And there's no time imperative. I mean, you have all of eternity to do the work that you need to do. But the consequences of putting it off are costly. Denying your dharma. That's what sloth is. The thought seeds associated with sloth are, I can't be bothered to do my duty. Someone else will do it. There's no imperative that I work. The emotion seeds associated with sloth are self-righteousness, arrogance, and apathy. And the actions that sprout from sloth could be summed up as fucking about. The remedy for sloth is diligence. Doing what you know in truth is best. As we conclude this, I feel it's important to mention once again that I am not prescribing any particular code of conduct, any particular way of organizing your life or being or anything like that. I'm simply pointing out that the truth of who you are, in order to cure that which ails you, that is to say, to claim the purview of the divine self, which operates at such a level that fear, separateness, and limitation cannot be claimed. They cannot occur at the level of the true self. In order to inhabit that level of being, it behooves one to avoid sin. And perhaps even avoiding sin is not exactly an accurate way to put it. Identifying sinful behavior as what it is, behavior that arises from identification with lies, is helpful in pruning out the thought patterns and the emotions associated with sin in order to facilitate the uninhibited expression of the divine self as who you are, what you are, and how you serve. So what's going to happen now is that you will attend to the attachments that you have to sinful behavior. And I'm not like prescribing that this is what's going to happen to you. This is just what's going to happen if you listened to this teaching and allowed it to impress you. I definitely, when I was exposed to this information, when I received it, I didn't intellectually decide that I was going to be faced with all of my sinful tendencies in thought, emotion, and behavior. That's just what happens. It's worth noting that all sin is based in self-deception. To engage in the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that constitute sin is to claim agreement to lies. And all sin is based in fear. And the truth of who you are cannot experience fear. The pain, the discomfort, and even the suffering that you experience as a result of sinful thoughts, emotions, and behavior is a manifestation of your maligned position, as we discussed earlier. This is why to sin is to miss the mark. When you are thinking, feeling, or acting in any of these ways, you are in denial of the truth. You are claiming the small self at the cost of the true self. The divine self that you are does not fear. Thus, no sinful thoughts, emotions, or behaviors can arise when you are present in knowing who you are, what you are, and how you serve, when you stand in truth. To claim the true self in its purview with the attunement, I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free. I am free. I am free. Is to dissolve the fear-based illusions from which all sin arises. Sin cannot exist in truth. Thank you for your presence. Blessings.